I just finished filming the last video and I realized that immediately I've got a call with a model that we're potentially looking to onboard. So I'm going to do this openly with you guys so you can watch it. Of course, I may have to cut out certain aspects of private information, things like that, but I'm going to try and keep it as uncut as possible to allow for you to simply just watch me do a sales call and see if you can learn anything.
Hello.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, all good, all good. I know that obviously we've got very little time, so I thought I'd just have a nice easygoing conversation with you for 5 to 10 minutes.
Yeah. Okay, hi, how are you?
Yeah, all good, all good. What's going on with you? How's your week been?
Yeah, all good.
Good stuff. So talk to me about your account. Talk to me about obviously what's going on, what you think holding you back in general. I know you've had a couple of issues with past agencies, but I'm just keen to hear more about you individually. I'm not the kind of guy that's going to sit here and slag off other agencies. I'd rather focus on you and, you know, what's holding you back at the moment, do you think?
So, the management that I'm with at the moment, I think they've got a lot of girls. They've taken a lot of girls on. So I feel like they're not really giving me my time to shine. Like, they're kind of just focusing on the girls that they've already been with for like 2 years or so. So the only platform I use really for followers is OFTV, if you're aware about OFTV.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then obviously I recently deactivated I didn't deactivate it. I recently got my Instagram back. It was banned, but I managed to get it back.
Okay, well that's promising.
Yeah, that's good. Good start. But at the moment, yeah, it's just OFTV and Instagram.
Okay, talk to me about your branding. How do you perceive yourself? What would you say are the key parts of your personality that you want to accentuate in the way that you brand yourself?
Personally, I feel like my Instagram compared to the other girls in the management, they're completely different. Like I'm not that explicit on Instagram in comparison to other girls. You know, I kind of like to kind of be more of a, not even just because of how I want to brand myself, just me in general. Like the pictures that I've taken are kind of pictures from my Instagrams. I'm happy with, you know, like family members, not family members specifically, but that's just an example really. So I kind of like to keep my Instagram kind of like anything that's, you know, free, more of on a humble kind of vibe. Obviously, OnlyFans is completely different, and the content on there is different. But you know, branding wise, I'd like to say I want it to look like a normal girl's Instagram with a link. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. I mean, to be honest, I get completely what you're referring to. I think, obviously, you're very attractive, first and foremost, which is a great advantage from a physical perspective. The only downside, obviously, is that, unfortunately, being attractive doesn't get you paid. There's a lot more that goes into what we call an ideal account or the perfect branding or kind of the characteristics associated with a viral account. You know, there needs to be a little bit more there. So you could be as beautiful or as ugly as you like. It wouldn't change my opinion on whether or not I want to work with you. They're not the kind of things I'm looking for. You know, we aren't 2 months into running our agency and blinded by the beauty. We're looking at work ethic, we're looking at marketability, we're looking at things that translate to everybody's success. So I want to know more about your interests. So this could be your own personal sexual interests, this could be your just typical day-to-day hobbies. And I also want to know about what interests you in the industry. You know, are you more interested in being dominant? Are you more interested in being submissive? Are you really interested in day-to-day things like gaming or the gym? You know, talk to me about that.
Interest-wise, I am from home. I'm working from home. However, it's very hard for me to kind of find, you know, like I'm not flexible in the aspect where I can kind of just like fuck off to Thailand for a few months. However, that is something that I want to do. I do want to travel. I like going out. You know, I'm a girl's girl, so I've got a lot of female friends around me. That's pretty much it, to be honest. I like shopping. I'm very fashionable. I'm very into my fashion.
Okay, so I'm taking away really things like going out, shopping, travel. Really, they're more sort of luxuries of life. They're not necessarily things that define you.
No, that's true.
Yeah, and the difficulty with that is that a lot of these guys, bear in mind, as much as they're the ones spending the money, they aren't necessarily always the ones with the money. Typically a lot of the customers are people with day-to-day jobs that are just looking for someone to bond with. So your maybe unrealistic expectations on your life's desires, i.e. traveling a lot, buying a lot of stuff from the shops, it's not necessarily stuff that they feel like they can fulfill, right? So we want to look at what aspects within your personality are of potential interest to our day-to-day customers. So the examples I gave were things like gaming, the gym. Is there anything like that you're into?
No.
Okay. Are you dominant sexually?
So, if we're going to go on that topic, I've tried the whole submissive kind of vibe on my OnlyFans, like even on TikTok and all of that. Personally, I don't think that did well for me, and my previous agency didn't either. So the whole dominant vibe was kind of put forward to that would be my niche. So I don't know if that kind of suits my branding. What do you think?
You speak well. You're well articulated, which is the first port of call. Visually, you've got dark hair, so that could work. You don't look like you've got too many tattoos, but that's okay. The only thing that really is holding you back right now is the fact that you're plastered in pink clothing and it's very girly and feminine and submissive. You're very kind of what I'd call attractive. You're the kind of girl that I would probably DM myself. You're not the kind of girl that I would say I look at and go, oh wow, okay, she's a dom. It isn't necessarily evident to me as a consumer. So in order to really figure out, is that your branding, we've got to establish first and foremost, does it interest you sexually? Because you have to, even if it's not necessarily something that you are in your own sex life, you have to be able to somewhat understand it and be able to work with it to really play the part day to day.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that it's something that I am. I wouldn't say I'm very dominant. Okay. However, as you said, that it's something that if I were to pursue that, I would have to kind of get more of an understanding.
Yeah, you just have to be able to play the part.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't necessarily have to subscribe to the belief system of that said creator. Gamers don't have to be gamers, they just have to understand the games, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, cool. We can explore that option. Obviously, we're actually fetish specialists. So, for us, it's going to be a walk in the park to have that conversation with you and essentially digest whether or not it makes sense to go down that route. Other than that, I want to save the specifics of kind of how things would work in regards to the branding and how we'd apply that necessarily to the platforms that we work with, etc. I want to save that for post onboarding. In this initial conversation I want to have with you today, is there anything else that you've got in the way of like questions or queries, concerns, issues, hesitations in regards to working with management or us specifically?
I feel like just in like when you like tell me a bit more about yourself, I'll be able to kind of like go from there and ask questions based on what you tell me. But so far, no. Obviously, I've had bad experiences with a type of a management before, so I'm obviously quite cautious.
Sure, I'd expect you to be.
Yeah, so that's pretty much it.
Okay, well that's nice and easy to work with. It kind of reassures me that you are somewhat wary because it makes me feel better about delivering a sales pitch. Typically I'm somewhat opposed to the idea of selling something to somebody that doesn't necessarily have the true understanding of what they're going into. That's not how we typically do things, and I think a lot of creators are preyed on, especially on their naivety, and that's where a lot of these issues stem from. So I'm glad that you've got those bad experiences because you've been able to learn from them, and you can be more trusting in the future when you do find the right agency. So
do you know, sorry, just to interrupt you, the last question you asked me, I just remembered something. With my first management, it was kind of like very one-to-one. He's spent a lot of time like kind of like pointing me in the right direction, and kind of like, oh, I've never done this before. I mean, majority of girls, I don't know what I'm doing. Do you know what I mean? But he actually did guide me quite well. The second management, so the man I'm currently with. Sorry about that. The management I'm currently with, it's more of like. They've got so many girls that they don't really, they send out guides and then kind of just expect you to kind of go from the guides instead of having any like specific, like they're there 24/7 if I do need them, but there wasn't anyone for me. There's not anyone for me to kind of go there and be like, "Oh, could you please?" Am I making sense?
Completely. I understand exactly what you're referring to, and I think what maybe it sounds like the second agency were lacking was that personal touch, that one-to-one ability to go through the idea and discuss the rationale behind it, the practical application of it. You know, at the end of the day, it shouldn't be the role of a management to just send you a couple of copied links and things to copy. No. You know, inspiration and things to copy only goes so far, and it's, you know, it could be valuable, but it should be part of the package, not the package. And
exactly.
I think that's where I've got to bring to your attention the fact that we kind of operate on a mirrored value, in the sense that if you're lazy with us, well, I'm going to be completely honest and say that we're going to be lazy back. So you refer to just receiving a few links to copy. Well, frankly, if we find that you're not particularly compliant or forthcoming with your ability to work hard, etc., and you're absolutely within your right to do that. You know, you can work as hard or not hard as you like. It's entirely up to you. But we will naturally reflect your efforts. So if you are quite lazy, I've got to be completely honest with you from the get-go, we will also. But equally, if you're willing to put the work in, well, you can rest assured that we will do the same. And those creators that we find are the most eager to work, the most open-minded to change, the most willing to comply with new suggestions and ideas, etc. We are very, very forthcoming. You know, regular calls, possibly face-to-face meetups if it's something you're comfortable with. Lots of back and forth on the phone, talking to you about ideas, things we want to try, new strategies. You know, the list goes on of things that can be done when you're willing to work hard.
Yeah, I think that's really important when you're working with, you know, guys that haven't been in the industry long. Do you know what I mean? Like, you need some sort of guidance somewhere.
Sure, and we're also not a team of all guys either. And that's something that's probably quite cool for you, because we actually offer, so naturally, what a noise that is.
Baby screaming.
That's okay. So when we've got a scenario whereby we wanted to do a face-to-face, typically we're somewhat hesitant with that, because what I don't want to do is sit you around a table with a bunch of dudes and you almost feel under pressure to kind of take on board the advice, etc. What I'd prefer to do is actually introduce you to our model Liaison, who is a female. She's somebody who's worked in the industry for a while. She's somebody who understands things from a creator's point of view. And she's essentially that gap to kind of bridge between our ideas and thoughts and your interpretation of them as a female. And we're very, very careful about the way that we treat you. One of our USPs is the way that we act, the way that we operate, the moral standards that we uphold to. And so I think that ability to kind of work via the female is going to be really, really useful for you, to be honest.
Yeah, that does sound good. That does sound, you know, females, when you're working with females, like especially in this industry, it's probably very important to, you know, be able to speak to someone that can kind of apply themselves in the same situation.
Sure. I mean, we hold ourselves to a professional standard, so we, in theory, could all talk to you about anything. But I think sometimes, especially when it comes to, you know, your own personal explicit content, things like outfitting, you might sort of receive the advice better from a girl that can relate to you, rather than just guys that are black and white saying do this, do that. You know, it doesn't make you feel the same level of comfort, and that's a really important thing for us. That's how we're able to achieve, you know, regulations via governing bodies. That's how we're able to work with the biggest creators. That's how we're able to be chartered accountants that offer regulated services. You know, all of these professional standards that we hold ourselves to, we have to have that professional etiquette for, and we feel this is one of those things.
How many girls is it that you work with at the moment?
So typically we work anywhere between 50 to 75 creators, but obviously what you've got to remember is, yes, that's a lot of creators, but we're also a very big team. You know, we're a physical team. We work out of a physical office. We've been doing it for years. We're based all together in a real office that's got an open door policy for you to visit. You can meet the team. You know, you have the opportunity to sit down with the chief of marketing, sit down with the chat managers, and do that face to face. It's not something we'd look to do straight away, but if we begin to become comfortable and there's a solid working relationship and we can justify the time for the guys, absolutely we can do that face to face. And with such a big team, naturally the relationships that you have are still quite personal, because your team are your team and they work quite closely with you.
Yeah, it's very important.
Yeah, so it's not sort of like a bunch of creators with one dude who responds every 3 days. You know, that's not how it works.
Okay, and what is the percentage that you take?
So for full management, it would be 50-50. It's a non-negotiable split. We take 40% of the gross, so 50% of the net. And it's for full management, it's a non-negotiable. If you want just like chatting only, for example, we can look at reducing that somewhat. But you know what you're going to make from chatting alone is negligible versus what's possible when driving a lot of traffic. So I would probably suggest full management services, in which case it's a 50-50 net split.
And which are your like main social media, or what are your platforms that you use?
Okay, so that is a diverse question because I could answer it in so many ways because each creator is so different. I'd be lying if I said that we did everything for everybody, but I'd also be lying if I said that we had one favorite, because every creator requires a completely different strategy when it comes to social media marketing. And if we gave the example before of you being a dominant character, well, if we're going to dress you in latex and put you in some tall boots and give you the appearance of being quite tall and dominant, well, typically we'd want to move you onto things like FetLife, Reddit, Twitter, things that suit the niche. Equally, if we decided to shorten you up a little bit, give you a pink wig and a headset and said sit down in front of a computer, well, gamer girls are going to perform better on Twitch, on TikTok, on Clapper. So it's really difficult for me to sit here and say that we do X, because actually we do what suits the creator's branding, and that's something that we dig into in the onboarding call.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense.
Cool, awesome. Well, I think we're on the same page. Is there anything else I can do to kind of clarify any immediate questions, or are you quite comfortable with what we've discussed?
I don't know, like I feel like with other creators, like maybe you'd find it easier to work with and them kind of be like, yeah, okay, cool, I'll do TikTok, I'll do Instagram, I'll do this and that. But TikTok, I'm not that keen on.
You don't have to explain yourself. I don't need you to explain yourself. You said you don't want to do TikTok, we don't do TikTok. It really can be that simple. Fortunately, there are so many options and so many ways to drive traffic. Obviously, we have to consider that certain traffic acquisition channels are going to be more advantageous than others, but frankly it doesn't matter. Like, anything can work, and I'm a big believer in, not just in this case but in all aspects of business, that anything's possible. So I'm not against the idea that we can make it work. I just want to set expectations realistically for you, and that's why I make it clear that, you know, we're only going to kind of match your efforts. We need to focus on basics, you know, branding, things like that. They're going to go so much further than, there is no TikTok strategy, no solution that just overnight makes you successful. You know, you need to have a good core branding. You need to have a good work ethic. All of these things are so much more important, and I can't stress that enough.
No, yeah, I agree. And roughly, I know it's probably different for each model, I completely understand that, but how long does it take roughly to kind of get your model on their feet?
On their feet? Well, it depends how you define that as well. I would say that you can expect to see overnight improvements from a chat perspective, you know, in terms of us jumping on the account and making more out of the subs that are already there. Well, that can be a pretty immediate process. You know, I'm talking a couple of days before you're actively seeing your account in the green zone. In terms of the sort of huge life-changing figures, well, that's something that A, might not happen. You've got to be open-minded to that. And B, if it does happen, might not be for a while. And that's just me being honest. You know, I'm not here to sell you a dream. For all I know, this might not work out, and that's okay. And I'll refer to why that's okay in a second. But we need to remember that this is something that we are both trialing. We have a fantastic credibility. You know, our reputation precedes us. The likelihood of you performing well with us is much higher than with others. But that still doesn't mean that it's going to be perfect. It's going to be a bumpy road. You're going to have to work hard, as are we. But if we both work hard and we're working on the same things, then we're probably going to get quite far.
Yeah.
Now, the reason why it's okay to not necessarily succeed, and this is the last thing I wanted to draw your attention to, just again to set those expectations, is our contracts. Now, our contracts are actually just rolling daily contracts, meaning that you can literally pack your bags and leave when you like. We don't like the idea of working with you because you have to, because you signed a contract and you're stuck working with us for X amount of months. I'd rather work with you on the basis that you want to work with us and you want to be here. And in order to do that, we're going to operate a rolling daily contract. So if ever you don't like the service, if ever you don't want to work with us, literally you pack your bags and you leave same day.
Yeah, that's brilliant, that.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're on the same page. What I actually want you to do is have a think. I don't want you to necessarily commit to working with us here and now. I want you to have a think about it, obviously digest our conversation, figure out what you think to me as an individual, figure out what you think to what I've said, think about any questions that you forgot to ask that are important to you, and then come back to me on Instagram or WhatsApp or whatever, and we'll go through those questions, and if it makes sense, we can look at getting a contract in place.
Thank you, because with the management, I came from a content house a few weeks ago.
Okay.
And it does make a lot more, it just makes it so much easier to have spoken to someone kind of in the industry. Because I don't know anyone, I'm not friends with anybody who does OnlyFans, to be completely honest with you. So, I'm kind of alone in this. So yeah, that'll be great.
Well, I think when you're in that position, you are naturally, and I don't mean this patronizingly, but you are quite vulnerable. So you want to be very wary, and it's for that reason that I suggest you go away and have a think. Don't just get excited by our phone call and decide to work with us. Go and do your due diligence. Speak to people about us. Speak to our creators. I want you to do your due diligence. I want you to make the right call for you. And on that note as well, you should also consider the importance of this is about you, and this is about your value here. This isn't about us. This isn't about our management. This is about you and what's right for you. And that's why we put things in place to make sure that process is as comprehensive as possible. So you mentioned you're alone in this. Well, good job, because we have accountants. We're chartered accountants, so we can take care of all of your tax, all of your accounting.
Yeah, perfect.
We have welfare and therapists on board, so we can help you with kind of managing the expectations, managing your interactions with other creators. That's what the welfare and therapy team are here for. We have obviously a marketing team which can help you with driving traffic. We have registered office, mail forwarding, company incorporation, mortgages, car finance, whatever it is in your life you want to develop. That's what we're here for, and we can make all of that happen for you in due time. Obviously, we're not magicians. We can't give you a big house and a nice car if you make no money. But what we can do is when things start to go well, we can start to help you with developing your own life, doing it safely, optimally, efficiently. And we do have that network to make sure that service is as good as it can be for you.
That's perfect, yeah.
Awesome. All right, cool. I'll leave that with you, and I'll expect to hear from you in the next sort of day or so.
Yeah, that's lovely. Thank you so much for getting in touch.
No worries. All right, we'll speak soon.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Okay, call complete. Now, the key thing I want you to take away from what you just watched was how relaxed I was. This doesn't need to happen. You don't need to sign with us. I'm not convincing you. This is your decision. And really giving her complete control, but being such a good subconscious sales pitch that inevitably she's going to sign. And I know that was a dub, but we didn't have to confirm it. I don't have to convince her to sign right now. Let her make the decision. The worst thing you can do is be a hard salesman. You do not have to graft in sales. Sales can be quite laid back and chilled, and frankly, as a salesman, for the most part, you shouldn't need to sell. So I hope you found that valuable. If you are struggling with sales, recruitment, any aspect of the onboarding process, then that's what we're here to help for. There's a Telegram group in the description, as well as my personal Telegram. Drop me a message.